Hello and welcome to this final installment of the Elements of Innovation Elite Inventor Crash Course. I'm Chris Frank, the patent guy, and today we're going to talk about the patent landscape, how to identify white space opportunities for innovation using the patent landscape. Specifically, I'm going to show you the 5 categories of white space opportunities that you can find in almost any patent landscape using the specific example of the Waymo patent portfolio. Up to this point, we've added a few different things into our Elite Inventor Toolbox. First, we've learned about the 4 types of invention, how to come up with unlimited ideas using these types of inventions. And we've learned about patent insights, how to uncover the problem statement and solution statement as the source of your inventions and ideas. Then we have the innovation equation. How do you know if your ideas are any good? That's what you use. And last but not least, here we are at the patent landscape. How to identify opportunities for innovation using the patent landscape so that all of these tools are at your disposal. To frame our discussion of the patent landscape, it's good to revisit the concept of invention versus innovation. What I'm teaching you in this Elite Inventor Crash Course is to think the opposite way that most people tell you to think. Thinking big is not necessary at all because someone has already done that. The big idea already exists. It is a self-driving car. What you need to do is think small. What are the 10, 20, 50, 100, 500, 1,000 plus problems that have to be solved in order to make this idea a reality? Or, since we're talking about the patent landscape, what are the 10, 20, 50, 100, 500, 1,000 plus patents that are already out there? And what problems are they solving? And how do we identify opportunities for innovation using this information? How many patents are there that are already out there? With regards to the Waymo patent portfolio, as of this writing, there are 588 U.S. patent families. And once again, if we figure that each patent costs about $10,000 to file, we are talking about $5.88 million worth of information that we are going to be sifting through for opportunities. How do we make sense out of 588 patent families? This is how we break each patent down into a category and subcategory of problems that are being solved. The Waymo patent portfolio looks something like this. There are 5 big buckets of categories that their patents can fall under. Map elements, which is to say the 10,000-foot view of the world. How do we route? How do we know where we are in the world as we are driving? Traffic elements. What kind of things are we likely to see when we are trying to drive from point A to point B? And then we have driving elements as a category. Once we've identified the traffic elements, how do we actually navigate around them, through them, or with them on the same road as us? And then we have sensing elements. How do we convert sensed information into object identification and motion and vehicle operation? And finally, we have user experience. How does an actual customer use the technology that we have created? Okay, so that's the high-level overview of the Waymo patent portfolio. Now, how do we identify opportunities for innovation using these categories? Now we're going to dive right into the 5 categories of white space opportunities for innovation using this Waymo patent portfolio. So here is white space opportunity number 1, areas of high patent activity. Now, why would we want to pursue an area that already has high patent activity in it? The reason is it probably means they have not been able to solve the problem, and therefore it's an opportunity for us to be the one that solves the problem the right way. In the case of Waymo, one area that I've found of high patent activity is the area of detection of construction zones. As you can imagine, every construction zone is different, and therefore this poses a difficult problem to solve. Here are a few of the problems and solutions that Waymo has attempted so far in the detection of construction zones. First, how do I detect that I'm in a construction zone? Second, how do I determine the severity of the construction zone? And finally, how do I respond to the construction zone? So there are several sub-problems that have to be solved because it's such a complicated problem, and there are more than one ways to solve each of these sub-problems. As you can see, for example, in detecting a construction zone, Waymo has two different ways of doing so. The first, they determine a construction zone is present based on the number and location of construction zone objects. In the second one, they determine a construction sign exists based on the shape, height, and intensity values of that sign. So you can come up with your own solution for detecting a construction zone, or determining the severity, or determining how to respond, or all three. Or you may even identify additional problems with regards to construction zones that need to be solved. So that is white space opportunity number 1, areas of high patent activity. White space opportunity number 2 is the opposite of white space opportunity number 1. Now we're looking at areas of low patent activity. Why would we go after an area of low patent activity? Doesn't it mean that they don't care about it? It doesn't. It means that they simply don't have the resources to focus on this area, at least not yet. So even a company as well funded as Waymo can't afford to investigate everything all at the same time. In the case of the Waymo patent portfolio, one area that they have low patent activity is in the area of networking, how to utilize inter-vehicle communications in a self-driving car world. It makes sense if you think about it that Waymo can't afford to put resources towards this problem because they first need to figure out how to get a single car to be autonomous before they can worry about cars talking to each other autonomously as well. Even though we see this as probably being an essential part of the future, it's something that is of secondary importance at the moment. So here are a few of the problems and solutions that Waymo has filed patents on in the networking category. How do vehicles communicate with each other? How does a vehicle receive a communication from another vehicle? And how does a vehicle report on something that it does see with another vehicle? Digging into their solutions. For communication, they first have to determine an importance of a road event, and then, depending on the importance, communicate it to another vehicle. The receiving vehicle must then assess a trust level of that information. And finally, from a reporting point of view, they can compare their trajectory with map data and report the invalidity of map data when it's inconsistent with a plausible path. So this ties into that map elements category as well. So this is an area that if you're interested in, you might be able to leap ahead of Waymo because they simply aren't putting the same level of resources on this problem at the moment. Here is a third white space opportunity, which I call invisible white space. What this means is there are certain areas that only a technically deep dive is going to unveil. So in the case of self-driving cars, I can pretend to be a technical expert from the point of view of living in Minnesota where we have snow. And what I know is that there are 50 levels of snow, and the Waymo patent portfolio does not take this into account because they are mostly coming from San Francisco. They don't understand snow at the technical level that I do. So therefore, this would be a technical, invisible white space opportunity. They have patents, as you can see here, that relate to the weather, but they relate to fog or sunlight or wetness from rain, but not to snow. Now, I use the weather as an example because it's something that we all understand, but these white space opportunities in the invisible white space category are ones that generally a technical person will be able to uncover looking at the portfolio that an outsider like myself would not be able to otherwise identify. Now let's go to white space opportunity number 4. I call this the visible white space. This white space always exists in almost every patent portfolio that I've ever looked at. When we create a new technology or a new product of any sort, for whatever reason, people always imagine that technology or product as working perfectly, not needing to be replaced or maintained or repaired or otherwise managed. This category is always left alone as an afterthought, and therefore there's always an opportunity to be a part of that new industry if you want to focus on this particular category. Likewise, it occurs here. Waymo has very few patents on the maintenance, repair, and management of a self-driving car. So you can almost say that their entire portfolio assumes that once you create an autonomous vehicle, it will work forever. Here we have one example of a patent that they have on management of a vehicle from the point of view of safety. Their solution is to transmit an assistance signal to an assistance center while navigating along a trajectory. So a call center to help someone whose car seems to be lost or confused about what it is supposed to be doing at the moment. As you can imagine, there are many other maintenance problems that we can think about. How do I update the software? How do I bring it in for repairs? What needs to be repaired? And so on. This is a visible white space with many, many different opportunities. Turning to our last white space opportunity, segment-specific white space is another one that if you think about the technology as not being for everyone, but for different segments of people, you're going to come up with different solutions that you otherwise would not have. Who is going to use the self-driving car? And what solutions do you need to come up with in order for it to be usable by them? So, for example, if you imagine children using a self-driving car, what would you have to do in order to make that a reality? You would need to have communication lines with parents so that parents know that the children are safe in the car, that the children have safely arrived at their destination, and perhaps you would even need to have a check-in at that destination that your children have been received by their teacher at their school, for example. Likewise with the elderly, there might be required changes to the car itself for assisting them in getting inside of the vehicle or exiting the vehicle, or once again, making sure that they actually arrive at their destination. Another category might be the delivery category. Perhaps the interior of the vehicle is changed. You might have heaters for hot food. You might have refrigerators for cold food. You have a completely different design depending upon the segment for which you are designing the car. We don't even have any patents to show you because Waymo has not thought about these specific segments on their own. But nonetheless, you can come up with many other segments on your own, and there you would have an entire white space opportunity category that you can own in the patent world. This has been a quick overview of the 5 white space opportunities that you can find by looking at the patent portfolio. Now, it's important to note that each of these types of white space opportunities can have multiple areas within a specific portfolio. There might be multiple areas of high activity that you can pursue. There might be multiple areas of low activity that you can pursue. There might be multiple areas of invisible white space, technical opportunities that you might pursue. There might be multiple areas of visible white space that you might pursue. And there might be multiple segment-specific opportunities that you might pursue. So there are more than 5 opportunities within a particular portfolio. There are 5 categories of opportunities. Within each category or type of opportunity, you might find multiple areas that you can pursue. This completes the Elite Inventor Crash Course. You now know how to come up with ideas. You now know how to use the patent portfolio to identify opportunities as the source of those ideas. Next up, we're going to do the Waymo Patent Portfolio Deep Dive, where we look at each category one by one of the Waymo patent portfolio in preparation for looking at the entire self-driving car patent landscape. I'll see you in the next section.